All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Always Almost There Live. Very, very excited to be here today. We're going to talk about the bracket. We have a very, very, very special guest in the house with us today, Mr. Peter.
Hello.
How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to have you on the pod. You know, we've been looking forward to this for a very long time.
Oh, this is great. I'm stoked for what you guys are doing here with the bracket and everything. So, excited to get involved.
It's the way to go. We are just about to wrap up the second round of the bracket. And before we dive into the remaining jams, the jams that we hope or we wished were still in the bracket, and all sorts of other fun stuff, Brian is going to talk a little bit about how the bracket is going.
Yeah. So the bracket's going really well this year. So much participation. This is the third year that we've done this bracket. For anybody who's new, and some interesting facts. So we did a big crowd seating this year, and thank you, Peter, for participating in the crowd seating. By the way, first time we've had a band member send us their stack rankings. We also crowd seated the first year for 2020, and I think we had 11 submissions. This year we had almost 60. So a lot of involvement from the community, which has been fantastic. A lot of chatter online, a lot of healthy debating, a lot of blaming of Vickers.
Yes.
So yeah, it's been a great success. So Peter, it's really awesome to have you on to talk about this, to get your perspective, not only as one of the members of our favorite band, but also as somebody who has taken the time to rank these jams, listen back, and provide that that opinion to all of us. So we really appreciate it. And along those lines of your crowd seating submission, before we dive into the Sweet 16 matchups, I've always wondered if, I guess I've always assumed that you probably listen to more live Goose than anyone in the band, if not just for all the post-production work that you do. Would that be an accurate assumption?
Yeah, I think it just is the nature of my role. Doing the soundboards and stuff, you end up just listening back to pretty much every show. And then if there's a video or something, you watch that a few times over. So throughout the year, I'm pretty familiar with what's going on, how certain improvisational segments are getting response. So yeah, definitely.
And then, related to that, I guess, I know we've talked a little bit in the past about, your recollection of certain shows or certain jams. And, you've talked about, just like the overall vibe or, the energy, really makes some stuff stand out for you that maybe some of it was off our radar a little bit for whatever reason. So
yeah.
when you're putting together your crowd seating submission, how much of that would you say is based on just kind of your recall from those shows and your kind of post-production re-listening versus, months after the show, maybe going back and re-listening to try to figure out where you would rank these different jams?
Yeah, when I originally sent you guys 32 jams that, I ranked, and I thought, I didn't really do any re-listening at that point. I was just kind of going off of what I remember, and the energy that we felt in those particular moments. And, I probably had listened to some of them over again, probably the San Francisco Wisteria or something like that. But a lot of them I just kind of was doing off of memory. And after listening back, I think once we started doing the whole voting and everything, I was listening back to as many jams as I could. I don't think I listened to every single one, but I've listened to all the ones that are made it to the Sweet 16 here. And I think my rankings would have been way different after listening back to everything. You know, because there is definitely, I think there's a lot that I forgot about that is like really good improvisation. Like some super standouts in the bracket. It's actually been really great to listen back, and like some of the jams I've you know, it's been inspiring. Like in terms of like I'm in a writing space right now, and have been for like the last couple weeks. So listening back to some of these jams, like I get ideas for like songs and stuff. So this has been like a really awesome exercise. Like the bracket has led to some really cool things already. So. You know, good job, guys, for doing this, and like, you know, it's been really fun. Like,
thank you.
Oh yeah, that's really awesome to hear. I'm glad that we can do our part in helping to inspire future
inspiration.
So,
the next great jam vehicle.
Exactly.
Where's the butterflies? You know, when are we getting that? Like,
yeah,
taking songs for rides that we've been wanting.
Yeah, and it's something you don't necessarily get time to do, like when you're on the road, or most of the year. So like this reflection time has been really cool. There was so much great music played last year, you know.
I agree.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so before we dive into the Sweet 16 itself, I do want to let everyone know we're treading into dangerous territory here. This is the first year. So far that we've made it through this much of the bracket without Peter influencing some voting in any way. I know Neil has some very strong opinions about a certain Hosewood that was, to paraphrase him, murdered by Peter.
Yeah, it was killed in cold blood. Peter killed it in cold blood.
What did I influence last year?
That was in the 2020 bracket.
Yeah. But I don't think he did last year.
Last year it was just it was a brief comment about the Perry Empress at the beginning of the tournament. So it wasn't.
This is a great jam.
Yeah, I agree. But you know, we're here to rectify that problem that we've made it this far without Peter influencing any votes. So it's time to influence some votes. Let's talk about our 16 remaining jams. We'll go through these matchups here. We're going to start with the Camino region, because that's where we're going to start with voting once the Sweet 16 begins in a couple of days. First matchup, we have the Legend Valley All I Need versus the Royal Oak Rosewood.
So we got the longest jam in Goose history.
They're both pretty long, right?
They're both like over 35 minutes long.
Both two of the longest top 10 longest jams.
Right.
Top 5.
Yeah. What do you guys like here?
Well, this is you put it very aptly, and we have been inclined to gravitate towards the first half. So I know Neil and I were in Ohio that weekend, like the first half of that All I Need, the first jam just getting very dark, very deep, Rick sort of messing with his effects. And then you commented, which we all agree on, is how sort of that second jam, it's basically an extended Nights segue. You know, you're kind of
I
working
actually
into Nights
disagree with
kind of.
I think I was hasty talking about that, to be honest.
Ooh.
Upon re-listen, I think the second jam like actually kind of stands very strong, and then
Nice.
I think the last 2 minutes are kind of like that's when it really goes into the Nights. I felt like, but I feel like that's not enough to discredit it. You know, like I think the second jam is really strong, and it wasn't even supposed to happen.
The second jam wasn't supposed to
really?
Second jam.
No, it's so funny. It was a complete like, you know, I talked about it with Rick before the set. Does it like start off the second set, or it's like pretty close to the
Yeah, opens the second set.
Okay, so I talked about it with Rick. I'm like, "Yo, we doing the second jam?" He's like, "Nah." And then, you know, what happens is like, oh, this is so funny. I should just pull up the video. Let's see. That was 6:10, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is hilarious. Okay, so basically, we're playing, you know, the jam, and I think that first jam is like one of the best. I think it's one of the best build-ups in the bracket.
Yeah.
It just like is really strong. It like kind of is very patient. There's good listening going on. And then, all right, here, let me share this with you guys. Now I know how to present.
There we go.
I'm going rogue here.
Let's do
Okay.
Best thing to do.
All right, here we go. This is a ripped copy of a stream, so sorry. Can you guys hear that? All right, yeah. Doesn't matter. Look at that. They Getty put the spotlight on Ben, and in that moment, Ben was like, "Oh, I guess I should play." So then he just starts playing. And I think I laugh or something. There's like a small ha in there, but it's hilarious because here, I'll stop sharing now. But like, totally wasn't supposed to happen, and it ends up being really sick. And I think like Rick was like, Rick like laid off super. He just like laid off at the beginning of the second half of the jam. And it was just like really, it developed so slowly. There's like a lot of keyboards going on. I think like.
Is that how you have the organ? You're in more.
Yeah. Let's hear it. I got it. Yeah, there's like this like organ thing going on here. But I think it was just kind of like, because it wasn't supposed to happen, we were just kind of like just chilling for a second. We were like, all right, let's just let Ben play a bit because.
Well, thank you, Getty, for making the second jam happen.
And then I think this is my favorite clav tone I've ever heard.
Ooh,
Nice.
So I was pretty stoked when I listened back to this. I was like, holy cow. It's fantastic.
yeah.
But, I think I love the first jam. It's so strong. And, I think, it's such a great, love the All I Need from Legend Valley. That's what I have to say on that.
That first jam is incredible. I went back and forth a lot kind of throughout the latter part of the year with Rally Matavan and This All I Need kind of flip-flopping as my 2 and 3 overall. And it's the Matavan is so good, but it's that All I Need first jam that I keep coming back to and wanting to re-listen to over and over and over. You know what I mean? And so sometimes it's really hard to, it's like you're splitting hairs on some of these, you know what I mean? But that first jam and that All I Need is so sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it actually, I remember at the time and, a bunch since then, it's reminded me a lot of similar themes to the San Francisco Wisteria, but it sounds really different because you're on keys instead of on guitar.
Okay, sure, yeah. I mean, that's a good point. I think there's like a really good drone that comes in too. Mm-hmm. I think I had the Moog then.
Yeah,
and like,
the Matriarch.
Yeah, that thing is really good. A lot of these jams have that keyboard on it, and I'm like, like, I might have to bring that back.
There's space.
I'll find a way. You know what I mean?
Put it on top of the organ. You got a spot there. Exactly.
But I think I was really upset that the Goose Jam Wisteria lost to this Rosewood. Yes. I had it the other way around. I felt like this Rosewood is good. There's a lot of it's long, so there's a lot of space for improvisation, but I feel like it lacks direction a lot of the time. And I feel like that Wisteria from Goose Jam is like just dead on. Mm-hmm. I think it's like really good example of the band listening very well to each other. Yeah, the group hug was like,
what a moment.
I mean, that was just like, that might have been the best moment of the year. Like, at least for me.
In a moment of the year bracket.
I was like, that was like, wow. Yeah, maybe that's different, but I think even the jam that came out of it was pretty epic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that one developed in a really cool way. Mm-hmm. But
your team all I need there.
It is what it is. I guess so. Yeah.
All right. And
I want to talk about this Rosewood for a second.
Yes.
Can we talk about this Rosewood? Because I got a thing.
Talk about the Rosewood.
Yeah, go ahead, Neil.
We all know.
All right. So in this Rosewood, there is an incredibly distinct section of Echo of a Rose. And the only thing that doesn't happen in this Echo of a Rose is the lyrics being sung. And I'm just curious, like, what happened there? Did you intend to play it? Did you kind of find your way to it and walk away, or?
we definitely had not. I don't think it was on the set list. It was not intended to be played. When was it played, that run? Was it played at all, that run?
It was played the next night in Cleveland.
The next night? I mean, I guess I don't fully remember if it was like talked about to be played, but like we definitely, it fell into it. And you know, I was like, Rick, like Echo of a Rose, sing the song, you know?
Yeah.
I was
Me
like,
too.
I was on the clap, like we were fully there. We were fully there.
You were there.
Yeah.
You're fully there, yeah.
I'm fully there. It's Echo of a Rose, and you just didn't sing it. So like, you know, it just
So then you just kept going. Yeah.
kept going. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Right on.
So
Solid.
But
Been wanting to ask that for a while.
the most important thing I think for Neil to understand is that,
but
you know,
it's
nowhere,
not Echo of a Rose.
There we
It's
go.
not Echo.
Oh.
There we go.
It was actually only ever noted as Echo in one place, and that was the Fantasy Goose account Twitter account that Neil was running that night. But you deleted that. You had to delete that though, right, Neil?
I did have to delete it in the end, but now we
Neil-
have closure,
Neil,
and I
you
feel
just
much, much better.
you got punked by the band there.
We
You did. You absolutely did punk me. And I think everybody else would have done it too, but Jive was just slow on the trigger that night. But, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pull the trigger until I'm sure.
Oh,
I mean, we don't need to go into your set list mistakes and Seekers on the Ridge versus Travelers, but you know,
Hey,
can-
let's talk more
sometimes-
jams.
we can do that.
Yeah, let's talk more jams.
Next matchup in the Camino region, we have the February 3rd Echo from Portland up against the Nash Cakes. This is a good matchup.
Yeah.
It's a really good matchup.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup, honestly.
We got some calling the cops in both jams, I believe.
Yeah. There's
That's
some cops.
Silence.
Yeah.
And what's
this
that?
is
What's that effect, Peter? Where you get the
so it's basically a glide. The
that's
story behind this effect is when Rick brought Silver Rising out, we were like, we were like, oh, let's do like a woo, like a ow kind of thing, like after the chorus, but like on the synth, like not a vocal. So like, I kind of just made that patch that day, and then in the subsequent shows, you know, I was just like, it was queued up, and I was just like, I just went to it, you know, because
Yeah.
it was fresh and fun. So it happens a lot in this Portland show, the Echo, and then, you know, a whole bunch that tour. So it just became an effect because of that song, which is pretty cool.
Speaking of this Echo, this is another, you know, speaking of like songs with multiple jams, this is the Echo second jam has kind of fallen out of rotation recently as well.
I think the first jam has just become so strong that it almost seems like it's kind of like the All I Need thing. Like we weren't at first, the second jam was there because like we didn't really know how to like. I guess we just weren't stretching out the first jam. And then there's a couple of these ones that are like overlapped where you have the first jam is stretched out and the second jam is stretched out. How you get a 35-minute All I Need, you know?
Yeah.
But it just seemed like kind of redundant. You know, we have a lot of songs now that we like to play. So it's like, you know, if we can celebrate the song and in like, you know, one section and then kind of like be like, okay, let's get to the next one and celebrate that song a different way.
or Drive. Drive's been one that also sort of you'll trim the second jam off or something like that.
Yeah, Drive's been an interesting one because we kind of like have not been playing the whole like E jam and the vocal
And the O's.
O's thing.
The O vocal, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just, you know, it's good to switch things up. Like we do that, you know, like
Yeah.
so ready, slow ready, like different, you know, it's all just to keep it fresh for us. So, you know, if something kind of gets like put on the back burner, it's mostly because it just wasn't feeling like super fresh, and we kind of just like, you know, need a break from it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
Makes
kind of why
perfect
that's happening. But
So this matchup.
I love this Pancakes. I think it's one of I'd say it's in my top 5. I think it's one of the strongest jams in this bracket in terms of like its complete arc. I think it's really, it's like, it almost like starts off in a different way than like the usual. I mean, it kind of like does like the riff, but then it gets into this other space, where it just like kind of goes to the 4. And then it's just like a little bit blissy until like all that like weirdness comes in. And then like, I just think this, here, I have another example.
Yes.
Okay, here, hold on. You guys can hear the tracks, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of like jamming. Oh yeah, this is when we go to D minor, which is unusual, I think, for Pancakes, because we're usually hanging out in the B flat Mixolydian zone, and we like found our way here. And then I think this is like, it just gets really dynamic, which I think like a lot of these amazing jams don't have as much of this incredible dynamic play. And this is something that I think is like, it really shows that the band is listening to each other. It's like super, I think that we're playing off each other really well here. Like Ben's doing something really cool.
And Trevor, yeah.
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 Yeah, like that's... And then
the cups.
this part almost reminds me of the track Moon from the from TED Tapes.
Ooh.
Like with what Rick's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's so it ends up at this. I really love like this peak it kind of goes to, and this theme is so good.
Oh yeah.
It's just like it's grooving again. I mean, yes, like the flat six thing. Yeah, I think like the whole arc of that jam was like really exciting to listen to. Like definitely a lot of re-listen value for me, and I think this Echo also has a lot of re-listen value. I think as a jam though, it felt like a little bit more all over the place than this Pancakes did. But I think just somebody else who maybe likes a little bit more like, I think that Echo maybe shreds harder, but I don't. It's hard to say. Like, one's kind of like they're just different. They're just different.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to.
I really like. So yeah, this is the Pancakes is number 5 overall for me for the year.
Yeah.
But this Portland Echo is actually number 4 for me.
So funny, like these two are really good for like going up to each other in this round.
It's a 2 and a 3 seed.
Yeah,
I just love the way that Echo gets deconstructed. And
totally.
Trevor's doing some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's reminiscent. We don't like to talk about this, but it's like 94 Fish sounding to me in some ways.
I could see that. There's like a youthful energy to it. It just feels like very
Playful.
Yeah, very playful and risky.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think, agree. Yeah, I mean, I love that jam.
Yeah, and
And
this
then
was
it does
also
shred also.
yes, this was also early in the year when you guys were still really just beginning to scratch the surface of this more darker and evil stuff.
Right.
That would really come. This is 2 shows after the San Francisco Wisteria.
Wow,
So
yeah. That's
These
crazy.
themes were there, like the Ben shows. That
Yeah.
both those shows aren't represented anymore, or that show's not represented, I don't think. But like the
Right.
Model
Correct,
Bond
yeah.
and the No Rain, like
Dude, the No Rain from that show
oh my god,
is great. That was one of my favorite ones to hear
It's a
back.
fan
I was
favorite,
like, we
yeah.
played this? Like,
yeah,
it seems like a completely different Goose than like the one that finished the year. Like
Agreed.
I would love to like get back into that kind of space that we got through there. It was so fun.
yes,
We talk about that a lot. There's a
We do.
stretch like early on in the year that I think the 4 of us really, really love, and I think this Echo and this Pancakes actually are indicative of like encapsulating what we really, really loved about the early part of the year.
Yeah, it almost felt like it was like West Coast. I think the West Coast in general feels like a little bit like, we're off kind of just doing our thing. There's at
Less of
that
a
time
spotlight.
it felt like there was less eyes on what was going on.
Mhm.
And I think in the fall it was like there was a lot more pressure. It just in terms of like a lot more people finding out about the band, like bigger rooms.
post Trey.
Yeah,
Well,
I think we rose to the occasion in a
Mhm.
lot of those
Yeah.
circumstances, but I think maybe it's like the playfulness kind of happens when you're really just very comfortable. I think we were super comfortable in those like, at the Wonder, I think that was the Wonder Ballroom or something.
Yep.
It was like a pretty small room. The stage was tiny, like we were very comfortable there. and definitely led to some playful action.
Love it.
Yeah.
So where do you go here, Nash Cakes or Echo?
You know, I'm not going to influence, but
Okay, all right. That's good.
I don't need.
I like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
That's good. We're giving commentary. All right.
Mhm.
Next region, we've got the Europa region. We've got the San Francisco Wisteria against the New Orleans Madhavan.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean,
It's our jam of the year. A lot of our jam of the year.
This is like really, this is tough too because I like both of these a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll play the Wisteria thing that I like. When we kind of go, let's see. I think this is like one of the best solos of the year, from Rick. And we're like kind of in, I think we're in like just a C major, and this transition is so sick.
Yes.
it is.
We talked about this one a lot. Yeah.
Let's listen to this transition. Wait for the drums, dude.
It's the toms. Like, oh, it's
And the
so
toms.
good.
We know this well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Dude, at that moment, like it's just like, wow, that is such a great reaction from Ben. Just immediately go to that, like it is just really, like that is so cool. And Rick, he just changes like his theme on a dime, you know, and like we were so exhausted for this show. It was like the 5th night in a row, and I think like nobody I feel like there wasn't good sleep or something. But like the general vibe was like pretty tired, and another show like this was Bozeman, like pretty exhausted.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny, like and when I like listen back to those Bozeman jams, I'm like, holy . Like how do we
Right. Yeah.
But like yeah, there's a general like air of like kind of like it's pretty tiring to like play 5 shows in a row for like 3 hours, and it's really amazing, like the improvisation that comes out of like your body at that moment. After like physically pushing yourself, mentally pushing yourself to, when you're improvising all the time, it's like, you're constantly trying to be creative. It's just a lot mentally. So it's pretty amazing, like what came out of that show. And this jam is really good. Favorite jam of the bracket, I would say.
Go.
Yeah.
There we go. That's so interesting that you say that the Bozeman show had a tired vibe, because that was one of like only 2 or 3 shows last year that there was no sort of stream for.
Right.
For those of us, nobody in the crowd was doing it. You guys weren't webcasting, and so we had no idea. And then there was an odd up the next morning, luckily. And I remember, I think we were all kind of blown away by the show immediately, because also, I think a lot of times you guys would have chosen to end that second set after the cross-eyed dragonfly, because you had already crossed an hour at that point on the set. Got it. And then you tack on this old C, which we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, that's so interesting that that show had kind of the tired vibe to it.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily like it doesn't really come across when you're listening to it.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about more of like the day leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think like it had been like 2 weeks on the road. And the other thing about this whole run is that like we shot like music videos like a week before the tour began. So we were already like out away from home for like a week when the tour started, and it was a long tour. So like it just got, you wake up and like you were fine by the show, but like the general vibe of like a little bit tired and a little bit worn down was there. I mean, the crew was like fucking exhausted by this point too. So like it, everybody kind of it's a little bit of like, this happens on the road. Don't worry or anything.
Right.
It's just like just part of it. But good shows come out of it somehow.
So, I mean, no disrespect to the Nola Madhavan, but yeah, I mean, this Wisteria is the jam of the year for me, and it has been for a long time. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on something real quick before we move on. So, one of the things that we talk about a lot, and I think this Wisteria was kind of the genesis of us talking a lot amongst each other about this idea of efficiency. And
Sure.
when we look at a lot of these jams, and so we kind of this is like the barometer for like the most killer efficient jam that we've heard. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Is the concept of efficiency or another term, a similar term, is that something that you guys like think about or talk about? Is it ever difficult to strike a balance between like being patient but also knowing when to be like, all right, we got to move on? Or
Right. I think when you're patient from the beginning of the jam, you end up with a more efficient jam. I think I can see that in this one, especially because at the beginning of the jam, we don't do like the normal Wisteria solo really. Mm-hmm. Like it kind of like slips into a new realm like pretty quickly, and it has to do with the listening. Like we were listening really well. It kind of like, I mean, most of the Wisteria jams are played in like A minor, and then they kind of like go to D major. After a while, we all kind of hit like a big big 4, and then we kind of chill in that space. Like that's most of the Wisteria jams, and then this one is kind of like finds its way to like a C major 7 type thing. I don't think there's another Wisteria like it. Like it's very interesting, and then it goes to B minor, which I feel like no Wisteria ever has really like gotten to there. It's just like it kind of like follows an interesting trajectory that like in terms of keys, and like that stuff also keeps it very interesting for us, and like keeps it, like you have new ideas. You're like, oh, I've never been to this place before in this song, like it kind of just generates a lot of fresh ideas. So I think just like being patient up front is going to lead to like a jam that's a little bit more efficient. And this is a great example of an efficient jam. I think like, that Rosewood from the other side of the bracket, I think is like not efficient at all. Mm-hmm. And ironically, I actually really also like this Madhavan that it's up against. I think that's a pretty efficient jam. It like at the beginning, it kind of like doesn't do the normal Madhavan thing. Honestly, like the Raleigh, I prefer this Madhavan to the Raleigh one.
Ooh,
hot take.
That's a hot take.
I think it breaks down at the beginning, and there's great listening and interplay with the band. I think maybe this isn't the most interesting thing for people to listen to because it seems like there's a lot of talking going on. But like this is to me like that's to me is like one of the most interesting things that we could do, which is like kind of like play dynamically and soft, but like also have a lot of energy and intent to what we're doing. And like speaking of songs that I don't think, I mean, that I think maybe should have been in the bracket, like A Western Sun from like Legend Valley is a great example of this as well. Like the beginning of that, there's really good communication between the band members, and it's just like that to me is really interesting to listen to. So I like this Madhavan a lot, and I think it does a great job of like everybody paying attention to like what's going on, listening to each other instead of just chugging along with the normal Madhavan shred thing, which I think is really interesting for me, at least.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point. Yeah, like it's sort of the Raleigh one is like the epitome of just some shred, like some good deep metal, almost like some of those interchanges. But
right.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. It's raining and it's getting in my computer.
Ooh, we don't want that.
Yeah, that's all right.
One of the other interesting things to look at between these two jams is, the Wisteria is a very guitar-based jam, and I think we were talking a lot about at the beginning of the year, like kind of being blown away specifically by your guitar playing and kind of supporting Rick's soloing and all like the textural stuff that you were doing. kind of as like a baseline. And it's interesting because this Madhavan kind of also exemplifies your shift in the second half of the year to using the keys a lot more again, which was something I think you were emphasizing a lot in 2021. So was there a point in the year where you kind of made a conscious decision to start using the keys more, or did it just kind of happen as you kind of, you know, got new gear? And
I think it was just like a natural thing. You know, I think it was like, I don't even know. I mean, it was just, yeah, maybe it's just a natural thing. I don't think it was like super intentional at all. Maybe I really maybe it was just because I liked playing the keyboards like a little more at that time.
Yeah.
Or like I liked playing the guitar a little bit more at that time. Like I kind of go back and forth. But I mean, certainly as like my, you know, keyboard voice develops, I find it more fun to play the keyboards than I ever have. You know, I mean, I think when I started with the band, it was like way more fun to play the guitar because I knew what I was doing. But now it's really fun to play the keys because like I also feel like I know what I'm doing in a way, even though I still have a lot to learn. So maybe there was just like I had been practicing a lot of keyboards or something and like had like, you know, new ideas and like wanted to go there. I think maybe that could have been why.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Our second matchup of the Europa region. Very excited to hear your opinion on this one. We've got the Legend Valley Creatures up against the Cleveland Rockdale.
Yeah. I mean, I love this Creatures. I would go with that one. I'm going to vote that way.
Like it.
I think this
Vickers is losing his mind somewhere. Yeah.
Sorry, Vickers.
No. He's happy about it.
Oh,
There's
he
gonna
likes
be-
he likes that one.
Yeah.
It's a controversial
that
jam.
one's for you.
Prepare your
Vickers.
Twitter accounts.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's one of the coolest pieces of improvisation in this bracket. I think it develops out of like literally nothing, or like there's like a small piano riff or something, and yeah, it's just really cool how that all just like comes together in like this beautiful way. I think it's one of the most beautiful pieces of music in the jam or in the bracket. I mean, so love that one. I think also like the first part of the Creatures is pretty ripping. So probably go that way. I think this Rockdale is a little all over the place, and I like the Nashville Rockdale more. So I'd probably vote for the Creatures, you know?
Ooh.
Wow,
See,
you're
I
hitting
feel
on some like super controversial stuff in this one.
For us,
it's like
for
two
us at
different
least.
things. Yeah,
But see,
yeah, Mike Steps.
I mean, I view this Rockdale as being all over the place in a really good way.
Okay. Cool.
Like that. I mean, the first part of the jam when you're in that like gorgeous section, and then the like crazy frenetic vibraphony stuff, I thought was like really cool and unique.
It is unique. I totally agree with you on that. Like, I think it's definitely deserving to be where it is in the bracket, because it's not really like any other Rockdale out there. And I think that to me is very special. That makes like a jam. It's like, yeah, the Legend Valley Creatures, like, you know, that one's really special, you know? Like, you can just call it by Legend Valley Creatures, and you kind of like, it's got like, it's a name now, you know? Like the Cleveland
Right.
Rockdale is like, there's no other Rockdale like it. So it's like the Cleveland Rockdale now.
Yeah.
Or just the Goat Rockdale or Goatdale. I mean, you can
Goatdale.
call it a lot of things, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
But this matchup is cool because to me, this is the Goat versus the Goat. It's the Goat Rockdale versus the Goat Creatures.
Right.
Well, in your opinion, I'm still a Frederick
I'm saying in my
21
opinion,
Creatures
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
I think that
Well, this-
Frederick Creatures is excellent. I think it's.
I like that one.
I think it's a different animal,
Mm-hmm.
different creature.
That's
Yes.
where the
Ah.
that's where the vintage vibe too was really coming along heavy in early 21 like that.
I
Like
think I
introduction.
just
You
got
were-
it there.
Yeah, but I think the Creatures is a good example. Like maybe we talked about the Royal Oak Rosewood. You stay in a space, right? You're taking risks. You guys are going a little further. The Creatures, like there's one piece, and then we jump on it. You're not always going to find something that might feel, or we might, as the fans, listen to and be like, okay, well, they took a risk. They didn't really find anything in that space. Whereas the Creatures, maybe it just stayed in it a little longer. And
Yeah.
just kind of-
Yeah, I think we we just found a really good space and then listened very well as it developed, like allowing it to really blossom into like a really, I mean, just fantastic jam. I like the Rockdale a lot. I think this is probably a really tough matchup for a lot of people.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to our third region, we've got in the Nebula region, we've got the Pittsburgh up against the Cleveland Dripfield.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. What do you got on this one?
I love this Redbird. You know, I think it just, if you listen to it with like some good headphones and you really hear like what the bass is doing, it is like it's one of the coolest jams. Like, I think I'd like to see that one go a far ways. It's fantastic. So I also love his Dripfield though. So and tough, but I think probably the Redbird. You know.
Was this like a purposeful shamalama ding dong jam, or did it just kind of end up sounding like that?
Just random. In the Dripfield, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just random. I think we were still figuring out, like, you know, at this point, Dripfield had been played like maybe a couple times.
I think.
Still just trying to figure out where the jam's going or like what to do there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were like, kind of starts off in the drip drums kind of zone, sounds like the tune, and then there's like this extra jam at the end, and it's just like it's great. It's great playing all the way around. But I don't think it's as dialed in as the Bird is.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's the Pittsburgh, and look, this is the high energy, like, sometimes people are like, yo, I need a playlist for working out, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've told these guys, when I'm biking to the pickleball courts and I got to get fired up.
Yep.
I mean, I'm throwing Pittsburgh on, and it's only about a 7-minute ride, so I got to fast forward. No disrespect, to about the 8-minute mark, and then it's you just start getting pumped up and you're ready to start smashing. And Trevor is absolutely just, I mean, dropping just
the envelope filter.
That place.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I hit the bike to this Bird.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, I've been doing some Peloton with the jams. It's been fun.
Nice.
A good jam to Peloton with. All right, next matchup. I'm very nervous to hear your opinion on this one. We have the DC Wisteria up against Dylan Bourne.
I think this one is equally as difficult as the Creatures Rockdale one in the Europa bracket.
I'll take it.
I think they're very well seeded tunes. It's tough. The Wisteria, like, just like the San Francisco one, kind of like starts off in a different kind of tangent, which I think lends itself to a great improvisational jam, like good listening. It kind of ends at like this like shreddy zone that I think it's really good. I don't know if I like it as much as I like where the Bourne ends up, because I'm a sucker for crowd participation.
Oh yeah,
that's another
like,
big
moving forward.
yeah.
You know, I love the way this Bourne develops into the woo thing. I think that's great. Egg the woo. Trey told us to egg the woo, so haven't done it yet since we talked to him, but I was I think that was really fun. Like, the energy at those shows was crazy. The Dylan shows,
So good.
Colorado like turns up big time. And
Colorado bias.
it was there's a lot of Colorado bias. I think there was like the sun was setting, like it was beautiful. Like this Bourne jam was like pretty unexpected, to be honest. Like, didn't really see it going to this territory. On the other hand, like, that Wisteria is completely unique and like really is incredible. So it's a toss-up, I'd say.
Now, with it being Bourne, so we noticed there was times throughout the year, you got the 2001 section, you got the slow build from Seattle, which we haven't really seen much, which we love, the slower synth build. Like, you know, are you guys consciously finding those space or like kind of staying in it as we're in those elements, like learning
Yeah.
new song, Redbird, Pancakes, these songs were developing and you're sort of trying out these different avenues for jams early on.
Yeah, I think Born especially we talk about it before we play it.
Okay.
It's kind of like, what do we want to do tonight on Born? You know, and it's kind of like, who knows? Like maybe sometimes it's just like, oh, let's just do the solo after, or like let's do the jam. You know, depending on like kind of the set list, what we need in a particular set or something, that'll kind of inform the decision.
I like it. Cool.
Yeah. But that one, I do like that kind of style of jam. I don't think we do that very often, so it's real fun. I think I hit the vintage vibe. I love that.
Yeah, Rick kind of that calypso finish. Yeah. It's basically, I think that, and later in the second set too, there's sort of elements of that. You guys used some of that jamming style, but it was a good matchup too. Great matchup.
Great matchup. Like, that's tough. It's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan's going one way, of course, but you know.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to go on that one. Yeah, I mean that Born is spectacular. I didn't go to that show, and my brother sent me a video of like the sun setting like over the mountain, and it was just like crushing regret for not going to that show.
Oh,
and
man.
and they played Switchin', and you weren't there.
Yeah, well, I'm the biggest switching guy around, so
Yeah,
I always call the switching opener.
That's a funny switching. It was the opener, so yeah, we were playing it. Rick goes to talk back mic, and he's like, "Hey, Deanie, how about an organ solo?"
Oh, right, that's right.
And I was like, okay. Like,
I lost my mind.
went for it. Yeah.
I was very excited.
Did
Yeah,
you
Ryan
guys?
screwed up a storm after that one.
Yeah.
Did you guys also? You were sound checking Thatch back then, right? I think because we.
No, Thatch was not
wow.
written until November.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
I remember we were walking in, and I was like, "There's still some song you guys are sound checking." And I was like, "Huh, could have been
Could have just been like a jam. But yeah, Thatch was, I think it was like Rick had finished the lyrics like the day before we played it. And he showed it to us in the green room. Like we started like practicing it of like, I think it was like night 2 of that Trey run.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like when it was done, and we like finished like a couple things on it. But yeah, that was a new song at that time.
random, but Neil's got some theories about Thatch too, though.
Well, yeah,
Oh.
I mean, there's a couple like tunes if you go back and listen to. So the Essex Junction Wisteria, there's like
Yeah.
a distinct section in that jam that is the intro, or it sounds very, very, very
intro
similar
lick,
to the
yeah.
intro riff of that.
Yeah. I would say,
any
like,
credence to that, or just coincidence?
You'd probably have to ask Rick. It's possible he had like the riff, earlier on, like without the rest of the song. Like that happens a lot of the time. It's like you could just have a riff for a song that you're writing, and then like everything else kind of comes along later. But it's possible he already had that and then just kind of like was playing it in the jam, or it just makes sense that like he likes to play that riff that way and that rhythm, so it's like almost just like it was bound to happen,
Mm-hmm. Well,
That's interesting take though. I should re-listen to that again.
Yeah.
There's a
another
couple out
version.
there. The other one's escaping me too. What,
Yeah, there's
The
another
Chrysalis Earthling.
Chrysalis.
Yeah.
Well, Chrysalis Earthling actually has a very similar sounding jam in it that sounds like the body of Thatch. Which is-
Gotcha.
And yeah, I think we've talked about this a bunch, and we're like, how does that happen? And I think like the way that you're saying it kind of makes sense, where it's just you find your way to this thing that just you try it out once, and then you find your way back, and then months later it becomes a song.
Yeah, he's like
and then
dancing around it,
Yeah.
and then bam, you have Thatch, which is such a great song.
It is.
Oh, it's
Oh
sick.
man, it's so good.
Hey, and good job by us getting a conversation about Thatch into this pod when it's not in the bracket, but
Hell yeah.
You can't not talk about Thatch.
I like
talk
to.
about
That's
it,
an
you know what
insight
I
I
mean?
want. That's why we got Peter here.
Yeah, you can ask any other questions you have. It doesn't have to be the bracket.
we don't
How's
want
everyone's
to go there.
how was everyone's fantasy goose year?
Oh boy.
Oh,
boy.
Thank you for bringing
here
it
we
up,
go.
Peter. As a matter of fact,
You know, I think we said yesterday that we weren't going to talk about Fantasy Goose, but since
We
you
Are we just
brought
talking
it up,
about? Are we just talking about total championships won, or
oh man. You know, I'm just
Or how-
retiring on top. I won 2022. You know, multiple championships. So you know, what can
That's
I say?
incredible.
I was robbed of the Fall Tour title by this guy below me here
Nice.
because of the second ACL
Philly,
set. Because
No, the
I was
Philly show,
banking
yeah.
on not repeating everything from the previous weekend, and he got a few more points.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Let's just give it up to the pod, though. What do we have?
Yes, we.
The last.
What were we?
7.
5 of the top 12.
We listen to a lot of Goose.
Good job
yeah.
to the
It's
pod.
bound to happen.
New season starts in a few weeks. It's
Get your picks in.
gonna be good. Oh
Richard
yeah.
Nixon.
yeah, you got to get involved?
Get
Always gotta
involved.
get involved.
I
Yeah.
love that stuff. I think it's great.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. Pod gets results. It does. All right, our final region of the bracket, we've got the Rally Modavan against the Bozeman All I Need.
Nice. Yeah, I think this Modavan is pretty awesome. I think that All I Need is pretty awesome.
Mhm.
It, you know, I think I really liked also that Pancakes that got knocked out. The 5-4 matchups were tough overall.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, and I think that Pancakes is really good. This All I Need is like very classic. I think, like a classic need, and yeah, man, that Modavan. I think I'll play you guys my favorite moment from this Modavan. Let's see, I wrote down the timestamp. Oh yeah,
13
here we
and a
go.
half minutes.
What's at 13 and a half minutes? Let's see. And this Modavan is just like straight gas.
Right?
It really is.
This was okay. I might be a bit early, but this is right when the shift happens, when Ben changes up the beat and you get into that like
Yeah.
heavy.
And the guitars are like
yeah,
leaving too eventually.
The guitar stuff is so great.
right there. He does
Yeah,
that
this is
shift, and then you do it.
it's the subtleties.
And then you do like a in a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that
like,
part.
I just turned it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, this is sick. And then
This.
oh yeah, the wah stuff.
Yeah.
It just goes full mayhem.
It's so good.
And then this part later on, like very, I mean, it's such a blissful peak. I think it's in D. Doesn't happen very often that we like get to D from Modavan. I mean, maybe we do actually, but we kind of stayed there. And then I love the transition back. Is like this is one of my favorite moments of the bracket.
Yeah.
Like this chord right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh shit, like.
Yeah, and here
yeah,
we
you
go.
get back on guitar.
We'll let that play out. I mean, the energy in that moment is insane. Like, and I think that alone takes it over this All I Need. In my opinion, I think it's just, there's great improv in there. I think, you know, really great Modavan, really great.
That was one. That was a hasty rank that we all made in the moment that has paid off. That it was and is the GOAT Modavan.
I
Yeah,
got several. Yeah,
Go ahead.
I got a lot of texts about that one.
Yeah.
So
I think-
like I was like, oh, that was good.
From Ryan or from multiple?
one of my agents texted me. He's like, the next morning, he's like, yo, just listen to that Modavan like 3 times. I'm crying. Like, shout out to Carl, one of our agents.
Love that.
Nice, Carl.
Yeah.
Madu.
Yeah,
We call those the Madu tears.
Yeah, I mean, they do happen. They do happen. I mean, that Madavon, I think, is like, we listen to a lot of these together, and we're always talking when we're listening to shows when we're like kind of couch touring, and we never get like unnaturally excited about a jam, but like that night we were all fired up. Like it's like
Yeah.
people are like tweeting everywhere, and like I unfortunately went to El Goose on Facebook and posted something about it and got torn apart. Like, this Madavon is spectacular, and people were like making fun of me. But man,
Why?
what a
You
good
were
jam. I was right, but I think you're not allowed to say anything until like 24
what?
hours after the jam happens.
Oh my God. It's like you ever try and say something right on the internet, you're wrong.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and we're also really good at telling people when they're wrong. So it's interesting to have the other end.
Always gets flipped back on you.
Yeah.
Goes
But
around,
I mean,
comes around.
these two are so good. Like this All I Need jam is one of my favorites from the year, and this Raleigh Matavan is just so good, and definitely one of my favorites. And like the funny thing is, you can split it into sections, and I still might say it's one of my favorites. If you like lop one whole jam off, still say it rips. You know? So.
Yeah. I might like it more than I like the other Madavon in the bracket, but they're definitely close. Like, I think I ranked the other one higher a few minutes ago. I think this one's pretty good too. It's just like they're different than each other, and they're both like really, they're both incredible. Like, I think this one I would expect more out of a Madavon than the other one, but this one does the Madavon thing so well.
Mm-hmm. And it just the way it has the dichotomy of the two different jams. Like, you have the really dark and heavy section,
Right.
and then the the sun comes out and it's like bliss land.
That's kind of like, isn't that like kind of like the old sea down there?
Yes.
Yeah, similar thing.
Exactly. And I wanted to say your point about the Bozeman All I Need being like a classic All I Need. To me, it has always felt like a 2019 All I Need played with 2022 maturity.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, like
I think,
obviously
Right.
the first jam is longer than you guys were doing them in 19, but
Right.
it feels like a similar kind of structure.
Yeah, I think it's all about the first jam on that guy.
And the Ghostbusters teases
There's some Ghostbusters teases.
from you and Rick, like
Definitely.
Oh yeah, that's
7 minutes apart.
Yeah, definitely. It was great. I think from that show, I mean, there's a lot of good content from that show. I think that Old Sea is like probably better than this All I Need, but it's appropriately seated there.
Yes.
Good job to the crowd seating.
Yes. All right. Well, our final matchup of the bracket isn't set in stone just yet.
What's the vote looking like now?
So Earthling is leading Hunger Site.
Yep.
So the Chrysalis Earthling is leading the Trey Hunger Site, and then tomorrow the Dylan Wisteria and the Bozeman This Old Sea will face off. The vote is currently it's closer than I thought it was. It's 57-43 for the Earthling right now with 361 votes. If you have not voted in today's matchup of the bracket, you can head to @AAT Goosepod on Twitter. There's a poll every day.
there it is.
Get involved.
Yeah, I like this. I like this Earthling a lot. It's cool because Rick broke a string, and then the band did like something like very different than usual. Like, where is it? But there's even like this part. I think that's like a very interesting piece of this jam that isn't usual for Earthling. So this is almost like a 3-part jam as well. But then this part is just like one of my favorite things we've done.
Yeah.
I just love this kind of like this dark jamming. And this filter is really great.
That's the matriarch.
The matriarch filter is so good. Super cool. I think that's underrated. So I think it should win today.
And doing some different stuff with Earthling too. Like
Yeah.
that. I think this year we started to see, and I think my own personal, it was sort of like getting out of the conduction, sort of just finding that sort of extended Earthling space, and actually kind of finding some stuff with the song was fun to see. And the Vegas one, did
Right.
a little bit as well, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we really kind of got out there on the tune, which I'm excited about because I think the door needed to be busted open. And
Yeah, the
it
Boulder
properly
one
was.
the Boulder one was
Boulder
also
too,
really
yep.
cool.
Yep.
Boulder one was sick. Yeah.
It gives the platform for moving forward, which is cool to see.
Absolutely. Anything can happen with that song now, I feel like.
Yeah, that was a fun show. You gave Brian the Disco Inferno he was chasing.
It's amazing.
Hey, we got a really
the postcard
awesome...
must have been from you then.
Yeah.
That was another one though where nobody was watching, right? There was no stream of that show.
No, there wasn't there?
Was
there?
there?
There was a webcast of Boulder.
Chris,
No,
You
we're
should-
talking about Chrysalis.
Chrysalis. Sorry, yes, Chrysalis. There was no stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
it
Right.
goes to
yeah, but we
such an amazing space. That
It was
jam.
really
I mean,
cool.
Yeah. I think we were all surprised at the time. Nobody expected Earthling or Alien to ever do that. That's the first instance of that ever really truly happening. And did happen a couple more times in the year, like we just said. But like, I think that one, yeah, it took us all by surprise, and boy, is it good.
Yeah, I love that jam. I love This Old Sea as well. This Old Sea. I think
he's already previewing the next matchup.
Well, let's talk about this matchup. Dylan Wisteria, Bozeman This Old Sea, happening tomorrow.
Oh, I guess we can't count out this Wisteria yet. It's got Colorado bias.
It's true.
And it was this one part. I felt this was the year of Wisteria. Like this, you guys. I mean, like we said, front to back, you can put on any version. It's doing something fun, even if it's quote standard. It's like, and sort of you guys. Does it ever feel like you're kind of catching a groove with a song in particular in a year, and it's just like you're like we are fucking crushing this song. This like when we play it, it just feels good. You have the ideas and you finding spaces you like. Is that sort of?
It's funny because you almost like don't want to talk about that amongst the the band because it's like you don't want to jinx it. Be like, oh yeah, we're crushing this one. Next one's gonna be terrible. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think subtly, I realized that there was like some heavy Wisteria vibes going on, and I think subtly, I like kind of thought we should play it less, because when like something's really hitting well, it's probably because it feels really fresh. So I think it was just like should keep it fresh. And I think there's maybe some instances of the song where it was like played and then another version was played like shortly after and like wasn't as good. So I think that probably has, and correct. Was there a version between the San Francisco and the DC?
No.
I mean, but there was a lot of gap, so I think that that stands. But that's a long gap for that song.
Yeah, there were a couple of Jive 2 also went 15 shows without being played, which is on multiple different occasions, which was interesting for that song.
I mean, Jive 2 I think definitely has been played a little bit less as of late. It's I think it's such a great song. I would like to play it. I'd like to play it more,
especially with the clav solo that you added in 2021. Bam.
Yeah, that's super fun. I think it's very. You don't want to like if something's really working well, you don't want to like overplay it. So that's definitely something I think about in terms of like the improvisational sections. I think Wisteria took quite the turn. You go ahead.
With the influx of new material this year, you kind of alluded to this a little bit talking about All I Need earlier, where it's like, yeah, we're not always going to do the second jam because we just got all this other shit that we want to play now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So with this influx of all these awesome new songs, has that changed the set list construction? And can you share with us any kind of insight into how the set lists are constructed each night?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely has. I think, there's a certain joy to playing like these new things, that's for sure. It, like any new song, like you're really excited about, you want to play it more often. I I think Animal has been played like a lot, even just
Yes.
since its debut. So like it's a fun song. Like it's fun to play, and ends up being played more. And I think you see in like the later half of this year or 2022, there was a lot of like bigger, higher profile shows in which, it probably swayed the set lists a lot, as opposed to like the spring was like a little bit more, low key in comparison to the fall. So I think there was a little bit more diversity going on in the spring, as opposed to like the fall, there was a lot more like, okay, we're playing Red Rocks for the first time, or we're opening for Trey. Like, let's definitely put our best foot forward here. Some festivals, ACL, it's like, I think we repeated songs from like the previous week, but it was like Hunger Sight or something. It's like
Hunger Sight,
and
Drip.
the album coming out, you're trying to
there's a lot more going on than like traditionally there would be. I think like Hunger Sight now is like charting on like radio, like FM radio all over the country. So it's like,
Woo.
we didn't
Very
really expect that, but like that kind of like, that kind of traction, like as just a regular band, like you kind of have to be like, oh yeah, we have to play that song, like at the very like, at the big festival with all the people, who are like maybe more like mainstream music fans. So, I think in terms of setlist construction, there is like a process of like I go through and like plot out. If we have a run of like 5 shows, I'll like plot out all the songs for each show, and then Rick will take a look, and we'll just try and balance them out as best we can. And then it's like, when it's time for show day, probably like it usually happens like an hour or 30 minutes before the show. It just kind of gets dialed in, order gets put together. Maybe a song or two is traded out for a different night if we feel like, this set doesn't have like everything we needed. Like we thought we were good, but we're not. Like let's throw something else in. That's kind of the process.
And is that more you and Rick and like Coach? I know a little bit too, but just you guys kind of getting in there.
It's mostly Rick and I, yeah. And Coach comes in for assistance here and there. Jeff too,
Oh, jabbing.
like occasional, but it's mostly Rick and I.
Mm-hmm.
Coach
He's
writes the set list on paper though.
Yeah.
Okay, the physical.
Yeah.
He's like, we need an American woman in here tonight, guys.
Yeah. There's been times where Coach has left out a song and hasn't been played. So, yeah, that does happen. I think there was even one circumstance of like, we played, oh, dude, this is the funniest thing ever. Like, opening of New Orleans. Jeff said, opening of New Orleans, like night 2, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think maybe Coach wrote Tumblé on the set list or something, which means like we're gonna play like the slower one. Turns out like Rick really wanted to play the normal one, so like we go out there, like start playing, like I'd start doing the vintage vibe thing, like the band sees Tumblé, we go to play it, and then like turns out it was actually supposed to be the other one, or Rick at least thought it was, and then and had written it that way, and then during the jam we transitioned to the other part of Tumble, so I mean it created like a really cool tumble anyway. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, classic stuff.
Yeah, that was really cool from the couch too. I remember loving the transition and the way that Rick kind of weaved in the composed part to the Tumblé jam.
Totally. I mean, I think it just created some really unique stuff. So thanks to Coach for putting an extra like accent on it. It's so funny.
That tumble generated a lot of questions, right? Because around the same time, Arevalo played and then did kind of the inverted tumble thing, and we were all like, what the hell is going on with tumble? And
right.
Turns out that it was just an accent in a place.
Oh my god.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff.
This is another couple, and then we'll move to our final unveiling.
I want to ask you guys a question.
Yo, yes.
Okay, let me see where it is on the bracket here.
Here's the time for jams that should have made it.
Yeah, I got a jam here that I think
Major snub.
I think is a major snub. Where is it on the bracket? Okay, it's the Richmond Rosewood. Where is that?
That's Camino 10 seed.
That was incredible. How'd you do that?
I know where things are. I also have the bracket in front of me.
Oh yes,
That
all right.
was versus the Philly.
Did it beat the Philly All I Need?
No, it did not.
All right, first mistake. I think it would have been a very close matchup with this Pancakes. I think this is like one of the coolest jams of the year, and I don't know how it's ranked at 10. Upon listening back, I was like, this is incredible. Like, what's going on? Like, why is this a 10?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Crowd seating.
do you guys like that jam? Like, what's the vibe?
I think that's one that we all had higher.
Yeah.
I think we all had a lot of the fall jams that kind of had those really pretty jams, and where you had some Rick kind of almost doing some finger picking,
Right.
starting those jams off with some real gentle rhythmic play, and so you had that Rosewood, and then the NOLA Pancakes.
Dripfield
had a
from
really
Atlanta.
amazing jam, and then the Dripfield also. So yeah. I'm kind of sad that none of those jams are still around.
Oh yeah, like I'm just gonna play a segment. Wait. Hold on a second. I mean, it just gets ripping right off the bat. Yeah, I just think that one's great. But to be honest, that wasn't the Rosewood I was thinking about. Yeah, that one's okay.
There was the Portland one
Yes, that one. Okay, wait.
from February.
Yeah, I need to go back here.
That one, but also that one was against the Chrysalis Earthling in the first round.
That's a bummer. It was definitely this one. Okay, sorry.
It was a 14.
I
Yeah, that one got
misspoke.
crushed by the Earthling. Yeah.
Okay, this is like, I love this. This one, everyone should go listen to this jam. Portland Rosewood, signed, sealed, delivered. I think this is like one of the coolest. I don't know. It's just a great segment. Great playing by T.
Trevor was amazing this year. I think he stepped up a lot.
Yeah, I love that jam. A 14 seed, no way. I think that's like I'd put that as like a 3 in my bracket. But it's crowd seed.
Exactly.
But I'm glad it's in here because I like that one, and I think there's a lot of Rosewoods that end up sounding like they kind of have a similar thing. It's harder to distinguish, so I think like that one really stands out to me.
You didn't even, if I can pull receipts on you here, you didn't rank that one.
Well, that's because I didn't remember it.
There you go.
But upon re-listening, I was like, that one's really good.
It is.
You also you had the Atlas Dogs
Oh yeah.
from
Portland.
Portland up really
Yeah.
high also.
Good one. Too.
That one shreds. I think it's
Totally.
really good. Has anyone listened to that recently?
I listen to it
I
all
did.
the time. The
I mean,
tempo
I love
in
the
that is
song.
outrageous. Yeah, it's so good.
We want
that
the
Atlas
big
Dogs.
Atlas Dogs back. It's good to see
Yeah.
it. At least the original's back.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think it just gets nuts.
It just gets faster and faster and faster.
Super high
It's
energy.
crazy. Yeah.
It's just you would never guess this is Atlas Dogs.
Right.
And we don't play that second jam all the time, or that we don't play the jam in that one all the time. So
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we were just kind of still figuring out at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for instance, like the Philly Hunger Site, which I think is so good.
there you go.
You kind of like,
There he
you
is.
kind of get that figuring the jam out energy, which I think, it produced like, I think like the Pittsburgh, and there was a really good version of Pancakes on the debut.
Yes.
Yes.
In
So I
San
think
Diego?
like, yeah, I think there was like a lot of good energy for like the beginning of those songs, like kind of like these more jam staples that we've kind of like learned to love or learned to adopt as jam staples over the course of the year. But like the beginning versions were pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the debut Redbird is
Also excellent.
Yeah.
still holds up. Yep.
Yeah, San Francisco. Yeah, so much fun to play that one.
Now, I am curious your opinion on one more jam that didn't make the bracket, the Glens
Sure.
Falls Motivon.
Oh, I love that jam. Love it. It's great.
Okay.
That was the one without Trey, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think I walked off that set and I remember thinking like, man, we really just nailed that set. Like that one felt like one of the strongest ones to me off that run. And that Motivon, it was like a really cool thing because I felt like we were like jamming and exploring with Trey a little bit, and like we had, there was that really good All I Need from like night one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it felt really good to like go play that Motivon on that run. It just felt like a really like, it felt really strong. So, yeah, that one is near and dear to my heart for sure.
That was also. Sorry, that was also the Redbird jacket night and the Redbird with Trey.
Big Redbird.
Yes.
What was that like playing Redbird with Trey?
That was a really, really special moment. That song is written about my mom, and the night before, my mom got to meet Trey backstage, which was like so cool for me, and so cool for her. Like she's like, oh, like I met Trey, like no big deal. Like, that was a big moment for her, and like, if I got like a text from Trey the other day. Like I texted Trey, and he was like, "Say hi to your mom for me." Like he always is just like, he's like, he always, pretty much every conversation we have, he's like, "Oh, how's your mom doing?" Like
That's awesome.
So like there's kind of a cool thing going on there, where I felt like they had a good kinship when they met. So it's just like, I don't know, my mom is like very bubbly and fun. So is Trey, really. So like it was, it was really special for me to play that with him and have him sing a verse. It's something I wanted to do like as soon as I found out he was coming to Radio City, but didn't happen that night. Just had to save it for Glens Falls with the Redbird jacket, like Glens Falls Redbirds.
Was there now was with the Trey piece too, an extension on that? Like we talked about the newness of the jams, and then like Radio City, Hunger Site, Arcadia, like there's some chances taken there, and then that All I Need in Portland was my favorite jam with Trey from the tour.
Yeah.
But then it's sort of like Rick and Trey kind of got into that almonds lick trading thing. Like, do you feel like it's sort of right? You're kind of finding these spaces with him, especially, and like maybe that leads to some of the stuff that we like a little bit more. But then Rick and Trey are just like finding that space each night, and you're just kind of leaning into that. Is that sort of similar patterns you find with new songs, jamming with somebody else on stage consistently?
It's interesting because I feel like we've never jammed that much with anybody on stage, so it's like yeah, I think it did kind of like settle into a zone, and like they got really good at it.
Yeah,
like,
no kidding.
by the end of the thing it was like one mind. So like, I mean, I think that was really cool because that's very rare for like Rick and I to like find that zone. So like it was really cool to have like some of these versions of songs end up in that space and like have a bunch of the recordings of that happening. Cause like you don't really get a version of a song like El Mag that's like that, or like some of the other things. So it's like, it's cool to have those versions,
That's cool,
I'm glad it developed as it did, and they got really tight. So it was super cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Now, before we wrap up the episode, because we're running out of time a little bit here, we have a very, very, very special reveal here. I'm gonna hand it over to Neil to talk about it. Well, Neil, you got to.
Oh, do you want me to talk about it?
Well, you got to intro it first, kind of the background on what this is. But this is what the grand prize winner of the bracket prediction competition is gonna win. Neil, take it away.
Yeah. So so we wanted to think of like a prize this year. Last year it was the Buffalo 19 vinyl, right? So we're like, how do we top that? I mean, like, what an amazing thing to win. So we handcrafted out of gold, a trophy for the winner, and like I have to get in like proper position to kind of display
Unveil it?
this. But like,
So,
there we go. Yeah,
can,
I'm gonna,
can Peter? Do you have anything that's akin to like a dramatic clip from anything right there? Something or something triumphant.
Let's see what we
He
got
loves
here.
the triumphants.
Some triumphant.
It's a very special trophy. One of a kind. It's a
I
one
have
of a
an
kind piece.
I have an
LE1.
LE1.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, it's so perfect.
Wait.
Oh. Oh. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Oh my god.
The golden strange man.
How'd you get that?
oh man.
That
This
is
just
one
came
of
up in
one.
conversation one night. We were like, how do we have a trophy? And I was like, we need a golden strange man. So I just got a strange man and I made it gold. It's not actual gold.
It's
but...
the raw version, actually.
Thankfully-
Bronze cast.
Thankfully, they weren't sold out
Yes.
in the merch store.
So you too could buy your golden strange man,
Yes.
minus
Yeah.
the gold.
But so the winner of the bracket prediction contest will receive that, the golden strange man.
Do you guys know who's in
commemorate.
first place?
We can announce it right now. In first
Not
place
me.
currently, this is changing almost on a daily basis, but we
Right.
currently have a tie
Oh,
at 51 points apiece. Lotus Knot and Greg Moran.
wow. Let's see what happens.
Shout out to them. We've got a lot left. Every round is worth more points. So
What do you guys pick to win the whole thing?
San Fran Wisteria.
Fan fan.
And Fran Wisteria.
San Fran.
It's the pod consensus.
But do you think it'll actually win the whole thing?
Now it
Anything
will.
can happen.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what I'd do if it doesn't. I mean, I don't know.
There's a lot of good picks, though. Like we said, you got people in the Legend Valley All I Need Camp, the Raleigh Madhavan, and the San Francisco Wisteria. Like those are just peak jams. I mean, and
Yeah.
think about that. Whatever you like, they're all
I
amazing.
think the Nash cakes I would put up there.
There's another.
I think that one, I would be worried, if I was the Legend Valley All I Need.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Nash cakes is really strong.
It is.
It depends how people, depends on their perspective. But I think that one's a really good one. I think the Wisteria is going. Redbird, I think, is going. That Madhavan. I don't know. It seems like the seating was pretty good.
There we go.
Mostly.
Shout out to the community.
Yeah,
And
great
don't
job,
forget-
everybody. And
don't
it's so
forget
cool to
involved next
see
year.
everybody doing this kind of thing because, I would like to see like a show bracket. Maybe it doesn't have to be 64 shows, but like it'd be cool to see like a crowd voted like the best shows or something like that. I know we got the Jive Goose list.
Trustworthy
There's
resource.
controversy. There's
I
controversy.
mean, maybe we don't need the
Whoa.
bracket since we have the Jive Goose list.
It's true.
Yeah. We've all been beaten
Shop-
to submission. It's Philly Night 2.
Philly Night.
It's what it is.
That's what he's named his dog.
Yeah. It's a top 10 goose inspired dog name.
It is Hunger Site. Middle name is Philly Night 2. Jive Goose.
There you go.
If we get another one,
Yeah.
Philly Night 2. Well, we'll see. We'll have to see how Philly Night 2 goes in March, and if the name still has the same sterling quality to it.
Hmm. Is
But-
the Nashville like 3-4 on the top 10 shows list?
No,
I don't remember.
3-5 is, I think.
Really?
Well, that second set is possibly the best set you've ever played.
yeah,
Oh, I
Nashville
know.
Night 2 set 2.
Oh yeah, I remember that's pretty wild. On paper, that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, that
that's
and-
a
that
that's
and
a
the-
good 2-night run because like that like pancakes and the Rockdale from that are really good.
hmm
There was a lot of good 2-night runs. I was.
And that's
in
also
Philly.
a night
Philly was
4
unreal.
and 5 in a row.
Oh yeah.
That week in March was really solid.
It was fun.
Yeah, you guys
Yeah.
were clicking. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that night too. It was definitely like a let's just like go all out kind of thing. I think the setlist is crafted in that way of like last night of a like a week run. It's like let's give them the business.
Nice.
Yeah, well, we are all
We're ready for more
very
business.
very excited
Yeah.
for spring tour. You guys have a lot of dates coming up.
Yeah.
In the next few months, which is awesome.
Yes, I'm
Can't wait.
super excited. Some returns to like some of these venues, which is kind of cool. Or at least maybe it's just one, maybe the Bozeman one.
The
That's what I
Elm,
was
yeah.
thinking of. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. Oh, and then the one in Madison, Wisconsin too.
Yeah, I'll be there at Madison, the Sylvie. Yep. We
Yeah,
heard
but
you guys. I heard you guys like that spot.
Oh, love it! It's so beautiful. Great,
Yeah.
good accommodations backstage. There's
We
like,
need to get to Milwaukee though.
huge
What's
group.
the deal here? We're an hour and a half away in Milwaukee, and
We're
I
we're
love
not here to
Milwaukee.
we're not here to criticize
no,
the band.
I had to
my
put it in
God.
there because I don't
Yes.
think you guys have played in Milwaukee ever. Still,
Well, I guess we haven't, but
Yeah.
it probably won't be too long.
there we
It'll
go.
happen.
Yeah.
It'll
I've
happen
also
before
never been to
it'll happen
Milwaukee.
before Toronto. So
Yeah, everyone should come.
all right. Well,
Thank you guys for
Peter,
having me.
thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We really it was a joy to have you on. We look forward to doing it again at some point.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll see you next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Same time, same
Yeah.
place. Sweet
Same
16
time,
next year.
same place, same influence.
Amazing. All right. And everybody listening, as always, we will be live the day after every single Goose show on Spring Tour, 3:00 p.m. Eastern. Join us. If you're going to shows and you want to be on the pod, reach out to us on social media. We'd love to have you.
We'll try
Spots
and
are
get those.
filling up.
We'll try and get those boards up.
Thank
There
you.
we go.
we appreciate the hustle on the boards.
Feels good.
All right.
Peter.
Yeah.
Well, everybody have a fantastic rest of your day. Get involved in the rest of the bracket, and we will see you